Hi, my name is Tony Neighbors, and I am the Everett Housing Authority's Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This is the second video of a three-part series where I will discuss and define the meanings of the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also give some information about why those concepts are important to the work that we do at Everett Housing Authority. So in this video, we're going to be discussing equity. Oftentimes when I'm having conversations with people about equity, it's common for me to see them interchange that phrase with equality. Or sometimes they may get that mixed up with the finance term for equity, which is not what we're talking about here today. So equality involves giving everyone the same thing, essentially, when you're trying to solve different social problems, or in our context, when we're housing people. The problem with pursuing equality as an organizational goal is that it doesn't account for the fact that not everyone approaches our agency on equal footing. And there's a really good definition from Portland, Oregon, their Office of Equity and Human Rights, where they describe equity as working towards a future where race does not determine or predict the distribution of resources, opportunities, and burdens for group members in society. So let's take a look at an image that does a great job of really showing this in a more visual way. So thanks to Paul Kuttner from culturalorganizing.org for this image and this explanation. So in these images, the first one we're going to look at, you see a visual illustration of equality. And so you'll notice that all three of the people in the image are trying to watch this ball game, but are having varying levels of success with doing so. So you can see the person in blue with the foam finger having a great time, person in red who is having to work a little harder, person in yellow who can kind of see the game. There's a crack in the fence, but they're really not getting the same experience. And so applying equality to the situation gives everybody a single box, but you can clearly see here that it's not accomplishing the goal of helping everybody to be able to effectively see the game. And likewise in our society, there are different barriers that people may experience, not necessarily because of their abilities or their experiences or their personalities, but in fact because of these different parts to their identity that they don't have control over. So things like their racial identity, their sexual orientation, gender, the list goes on and on. So I actually want to take a moment to share some stats that I think illustrate some of what that looks like to further clarify what some of those barriers are for people. And we'll actually start right here in Snohomish County. So in 2016, Latinx people made up 10.2% of the Snohomish County population, but 18.3% of the poverty census. So right here in our area, you can see that Latinx communities are overrepresented among our poorest residents. In Seattle, the median net worth for Black households is only about 5% of that of white households. The combined median net worths for both Black and Latinx households is still less than a fourth that of white households. Nationally, Black people make up about 13% of the US population, but nearly 40% of the homeless population, and that's triple their percentage of the total population. Pacific Islander homelessness is also about triple their percentage of the population, and Native American homelessness is nearly double their percentage of the population. In job application processes, names that are perceived as white receive 50% more callbacks than names that are perceived as Black. And that creates even more challenges in getting jobs and being able to avoid and overcome poverty. And Black mothers are over 3 times as likely to die in childbirth as white mothers, and Native American mothers are about 2.5 times as likely to die in childbirth as white mothers. So I know those are some challenging statistics. Those can be hard to swallow, and unfortunately are only a small number of the overwhelming amount of data that shows off the fact that different groups of people, again, are not necessarily approaching our agency on equal footing, and there's work to still be done. So let's get back to the ball game image, and we'll get a visual of equity. Equity accounts for various contexts of advantage and access and disadvantage and lack of access. The person in yellow, as you can see here, received 3 boxes to stand on to correct for the fact that the fence is higher and the ground is lower for that person so they can have the same outcome of being able to participate in the fun as the person in blue who only needs one box. The creator of these first two images took it a step further, which should hopefully challenge us to think even more deeply about how we consider our mission. In this third image, we see an image of justice, where the people realize that the fence itself is the problem. So instead of coming up with solutions to get around the fence, they work together to remove the fence entirely, thus allowing them all to have access to watching the game without having to worry about falling off any boxes. It takes effort and teamwork to remove the fence, but imagine how much easier off they will all be once the fence is gone. This is where we want to be as an agency. So again, equity, just to reiterate that point, it's about focusing on those with the greatest amount of need and giving them what they need so that they can thrive. It has to do with identifying structures and processes and ways of being that impact some groups more harshly than others, or don't leave groups with equal footing or with equal outcomes. And so that is our goal, is to figure out ways to be able to do that, and then hopefully even in the longer run be able to eliminate the systems that create those issues in the first place, so we eventually aren't going to need those specifically targeted resources. So I remain very enthusiastic about being a part of Everett Housing Authority, and this is the type of journey that we're on together. And so I hope that you're as excited as I am to continue this critical work of serving our community and undoing racism.